Okay, welcome back to our davening class. I feel like recently with the different parts of the davening that we've been focusing on, whether it was the Shema, Israel, which is the six words of the Shema, or the six words of the Baruch Shem, we've had to tear ourselves away from the topic because as we explored it further and further, there was always more to learn. So we spent, I don't know, 7, 8 classes on the Shema and then the 3, 4 classes on the Baruch Shem. And each week, as I'm exploring it, I learned there's more, kind of push it off to next week. But but the truth is we have to move on to go to the next section of davening with the knowledge that we certainly didn't cover everything within the previous area of the davening. And that's the case over here as well, as we move from the Baruch Shem to the V'ahavta. And maybe, and not that I can say that I accomplished this, but maybe that's the way you're supposed to daven. When a person has the ability to daven properly and gives themselves the time to do so, so as you get motivated and excited about a few words in the davening, you also have to tear yourself away to move on to the next part of the davening because there's so much to think about and to connect to with each part of the davening. And again, davening is really an opportunity to connect with Hashem, and the words are gifts of connection, or the tools of connection that we have. Okay, so we've studied the Shema Yisrael. And then we moved on to the Baruch Shem. We explained the link from one to the other. And now we go to the V'ahavta. However, it's important to point out that in the Torah, V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha is the immediate continuation of Shema, not Baruch Shem. We spoke about this. Why is it that we insert Baruch Shem? So we said Yaakov Avinu did link the Shema to Baruch Shem. Moshe omitted the Baruch Shem and went straight from Shema to V'ahavta. But if you read the pasuk, "V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha," you will love your God, your soul. That is the continuation of Shema Yisrael. And what are the words of V'ahavta? Okay, so let's begin with the words, and then we can get into the perhaps the deeper understanding of it. But the words of V'ahavta are V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha. You shall love your God. B'chol levavcha, with all your heart, u'b'chol nafshecha, and with all your soul, u'b'chol me'odecha, and with all your being. This is a mitzvah. Let's start with that. This is a mitzvah, the mitzvah to love Hashem. It is one of the 613 commandments. It is one of the 248 positive commandments. So let's, for one, this is a mitzvah. It's an obligation to love Hashem. But it's more than just a mitzvah, obviously. It's more than just a mitzvah. All mitzvahs are critical, but this one arguably is more so. The Tanya, when it talks about the mitzvah of loving Hashem, along with the mitzvah of fearing Hashem, describes the two mitzvahs as, these two mitzvahs, the love and the fear of Hashem, as wings. Wings for what? Wings for every other mitzvah. So the Tanya compares every mitzvah to the body of a bird, and the love of Hashem and the fear of Hashem are the wings which cause the bird to fly and cause that mitzvah to ascend to heaven, to reach its goal. So again, Avas Hashem, the love of Hashem, on the one hand is its own mitzvah, but it's one of those mitzvahs which carries every other mitzvah, with it, along with fear of Hashem. And which is why this mitzvah is along with the words of the Shema, the following, V'ahavta, is the one Torah obligation to recite every single day. Again, there's a lot of prayers every day. There's a lot of blessings every day. There's only one section of davening. There's only one thing that we say every day, which is a Torah obligation to recite every single day. And that is these words, the Shema and the V'ahavta. That's the one thing which God says you have to say every day. There are other things we say which are a Torah obligation. Benching. When you say the Birkas Hamazon, when you have a meal and you bench, that benching is a Torah obligation. But you don't have to bench every day, right? In fact, there's some days we don't eat at all. You could choose not to eat or not to eat a meal, and then you don't bench. So even though when you do bench, it's a Torah obligation, but there is no obligation to recite it every day. This ve'ahavta, along with his Shema, is a Torah obligation to recite every day. Which means, and I'm sort of stating the obvious over here, which means that this is something God says you have to live with every day. You have to say, not just every day, but twice a day, morning and nighttime. This carries your Yiddishkeit. Your Judaism is dependent on having these words being constantly aware of this. So therefore, obviously, it's worth focusing on, meditating upon. The idea of loving Hashem is something that we carry with us every day. And as we said a moment ago, it's not just that we carry with us every day, it is the wings, which it is the concept that every mitzvah is done with this. Every mitzvah is done with Avas Hashem. Not only do we read it every day, how else do we fulfill this mitzvah? We are surrounded by this mitzvah. We're surrounded by this mitzvah, I forget, is it in 7 ways, I believe. You say it twice a day. Every time you walk through a doorway, what do we pass? A mezuzah. What's in the mezuzah? The Shema Yisrael. What does that symbolize? It's more than just a mitzvah to put a mezuzah on your door. It's more than just a mitzvah on the door. What is the mezuzah? The mezuzah is a message. Sometimes we forget that, which should be obvious. The mezuzah is a message. The message is contained in the mezuzah. The message is, love your God. So God says, in the morning when you wake up, remind yourself you have to love Hashem. And the night when you go to sleep, remind yourself you have to love Hashem. When you walk in and out of your home, remind yourself you have to love Hashem. The tefillin that we put on our head, remind yourself to love Hashem. The tefillin that we put on our arm, again, the Shema is in there. We surround ourselves morning and night, heart and mind, in and out, wherever we go. It's this message, which is again and again, which we are meant to minus. Which Torah is very big, Judaism is very big, but there are some messages which carry all of Judaism. Ahavas Hashem, love of Hashem, is a mitzvah. It's not the only one, because if you read through the Shema and if you look through the mezuzah, you'll see there are numerous mitzvahs over here, but one of them is the Ahavas Hashem is a mitzvah that you have to carry with you morning, night, wherever you go, on your heart and on your mind. It's really all encompassing. So what is this mitzvah? So first, let's learn the simple reading of it. And whenever we want to understand the simple meaning of a verse, first thing we do is we go to Rashi. So what does the Rashi on the Torah tell us? You shall love God b'chol levavcha, with all your heart. Says Rashi. The word levavcha is plural. Really, if you translate b'chol levavcha, it would be with all your hearts. So then, what does it mean with all your hearts? It should say with all your heart. It says Rashi, and again Rashi is quoting from the Talmud, b'chol levavcha b'shnei yitzarecha. You do have 2 hearts. You have a heart for good, and you have a heart for, let's call it bad. You have your Yetzer Tov and your Yetzer Hara. And the goal of life is not just to love God with your Yetzer Tov, with your godly soul, which the part of you which is naturally connected to Hashem. And then one could really say, look, I'll work with my godly soul to continue to love Hashem. But that's not the goal. The goal is that even my Yetzer Hara, even my animal soul comes to love Hashem. And I'll bring up a sore topic right now here in Detroit, and that is that there was a lot of excitement for a football game last night. Gewalt is right. And the team, which is so beloved here in town, football team, and they lost, and it was unexpected because they're the better team. All right, it's very it's a sad day here in town. I say it somewhat tongue in cheek because sometimes you get a reminder, right? People are so excited about a football team and they get very into it and passionate about it. And then you look what really matters right now, right? There's a very, very painful situation playing itself out in Eretz Yisrael. A very both joyous and painful simultaneously. You realize that it's kind of silly to get caught up in trivial matters. But the point is that you see we find people can become infatuated, right? Where does the word fan come from?
Fan, infatuated.
Right, something like that.
Spell, it's part of the word.
Right. We become there is a shnei tzaracha. We have a love for that which is meaningful and holy, and then we sometimes we get caught up in a love for that which is unholy. Doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean it's evil. It just means we have a heart for certain things we are drawn to, and we can come to love things which are just don't really have value. And obviously there could be love for that which is inappropriate and that which is wrong altogether. But even besides for that, so b'chol levavcha, the starting point is to serve God and to be able to channel even the animalistic love, even your love for that which is unholy, channel that to Hashem too, and that's doable. We're not just talking about super holy people who live with just a tremendous love for Hashem. Every one of us has the ability to direct the love that we have for mundane things and direct that to Hashem. And when you're doing that, you are fulfilling this obligation of b'chol levavcha, not b'chol libcha. B'chol libcha would mean, if it would say b'chol libcha with all your heart, it would mean that, all right, you like your football team, and you like sushi, and you like your whatever mundane things you like, and then alongside that you go to shul and you love davening and you love Torah and you love those both loves kind of coexist. That's not the mitzvah. The mitzvah is to direct both loves towards Hashem. And the next, so that's b'chol levavcha. Again, each of these ideas can be expanded, but that's b'chol levavcha. B'chol nafshecha is a very simple statement. It's simple, it's not easy, but it's simple. And that is, as Rashi says, afilu hunotel es nafshecha. Even if God takes your life, even if God takes your life, there too, you are ready to give up your life for the sake of Hashem. Yeah, if you want, you grab a sitter. So even if God takes your life, you are still ready to love Hashem. And in this moment, when a person davens, is a moment, and however long you want to take, but at this moment, one is supposed to close their eyes. And I don't know if the word is meditate, or there's a concept of a mantra, right? And say, I am ready to give my life up for my connection to Hashem, for my love for Hashem.
Okay.
As we said earlier, one of the ideas of the Torah is that Rabbi Akiva says, Rabbi Akiva was killed by the Romans. He was smiling. Rabbi Akiva was killed by the Romans. He was smiling, and it was a very painful death. And both his daughter was there, his students were there, and I think it was the students who turned to him and said, "Really, to this extent, how can you smile? I mean, fine, you're giving your life up for Hashem. That's a tremendous level, but to smile, to be happy about this in the pain, the moment of pain." And he answered. He said, "Yes." He said, "I'll tell you why." He said that for years, and we can calculate for about 80 years, he says, I've been saying every single day the words of b'chol nafshecha, that God will take away, that I serve God with all my life, ready to give up my life, saying it for 80 years. I don't know how to calculate 80 years times 2 every single day. It's a lot of times, many, many, many thousands of times. He says, every day I said it, but I was never sure. Did I mean it? How do I know if what I'm saying, if I mean what I say? He says, now that I'm actually giving up my life and willingly giving up my life. Rabbi Akiva could have avoided the situation. He gave up his life because he taught Torah, and he knew that by teaching Torah he would endanger his life. He says, now that I'm giving up my life, it's not just that this moment is a moment of holiness. It validates 80 years of me saying the words b'chol nafshecha. Now going back 80 years, morning and night and throughout the day, whenever I said b'chol nafshecha, I know it was true. Could there be anything more happy than validating 80 years of something I've done to know that it was true? So b'chol nafshecha is very powerful. Again, the idea of giving up one's life for Hashem is the epitome of holiness. It's not something we pursue. Don't get me wrong. We are a people who pursues life. But when those throughout history have given up their lives for Hashem, it is the highest level of Kiddush Hashem, sanctification of God's name. But every day, when you say the words b'chol nafshecha, one is supposed to meditate on this, that this is a level that I am ready to do. That's b'chol nafshecha. Filu hunot los nafshecha. And then the third word is perhaps the most enigmatic of them all, of the three. B'chol me'odech, which means with all your might, which is somewhat vague. What does b'chol me'odecha mean? So I don't think we'll do a deep dive into b'chol me'odecha today. We'll say that for maybe I don't know, next week or a couple weeks from now. But b'chol me'odecha, as Rashi says, Pshat is two understandings of b'chol me'odecha. B'chol me'odecha either means b'chol mamoncha, with all of your wealth. You should love God with all your wealth, with your money. That's one thing. You have to love God with your money as well. Your money you should use your money to express your love for Hashem. Now, what's a little bit odd about that is that how does that follow b'chol nafshecha? I've just said I'm ready to give up my life, and now I add to that, and I'm also ready to give $10. I mean, it seems to be a little bit odd, right? You go, if we're building up in one's love, imagine you're writing a loving card towards someone. You say, I'm ready to give my life for you, and also some cash. It just seems a little bit of a letdown after, or the order should be different. That would seem to be the proper order if b'chol ma'odcha means money. All right, so we'll explain that. But the second idea over here is ma'odcha. The word ma'od could also, you can kind of, these letters reorganize b'chol mida, any measurement. B'chol mida umida, every measurement that God directs your way. And mida, measurement over here means every... No, it's talking about b'chol mida umida in every situation that God presents to you, in all the different mountains and valleys of life that'll happen, all the ups and downs, you should be able to love Hashem through them all. So that's a second understanding of b'chol me'odcha. Okay, me'odecha. So that's for starters. The starting point, again, as we read these words and we meditate upon them, is to understand them from their simple meaning, or the way, again, this is the basic interpretation. B'chol avavcha means with both my yetzer tov, yetzer hara. B'chol nafshecha means even if God takes my soul. And b'chol me'odecha can either mean my wealth, or in every measurement, in every circumstance that I face in life, I'm able to love Hashem. And now let's begin the process of examining these words on a deeper level. So the first observation I want to share is from the Orach Chaim. The Orach Chaim, one of the commentaries on the Torah, who has more of a mystical spin in his commentary. He focuses on, the first thing he addresses is not the first word of Ve'ahavta, but the first letter, which is Vav, Ve. What does the letter Vav mean? What does the Vav mean? And. Now, in the Chabad.org, as they go through the davening and translation, when it translates the words Ve'ahavta Hashem Elokecha, translates it as, you shall love God, your Lord, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. That's a pretty accurate translation, but it's not a exactly accurate translation. It's not a precise translation, because Ve'ahavta is not you shall love God, but and you shall love God. Which, now it's understandable why they removed the word and, because and seems to be a little bit out of place over here. What do you mean and? It's a mitzvah. It's a new comment. It's a new obligation. The word should be ahavta. You shall love God, not and you shall love God. What's the and? And suggests that this is a continuation of something. It's a brand new mitzvah. It's a new mitzvah. It's one of the mitzvahs of the Torah. So what is the and here? What is the and suggesting? That it's a continuation of something else. And that's what the Orach Chaim gets into. And he shares several answers, and I want to go through them. Because this letter Vav is very significant. Somehow, this love of Hashem is a continuation of something. And you shall love Hashem. What's the idea of the and? This is a self-standing, powerful mitzvah. How is it and? How is it secondary to anything else? So the first is, he says like this, that, and perhaps this is the most basic understanding, and that is that this and is referring to the Shema, which came right before it. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. As we explained at great length, is the idea of Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim. More than anything, it is accepting the yoke of heaven. Now, the acceptance of the yoke of heaven, Kabbalas Ol, as we say in Hebrew, does not seem to be a very loving concept. In other words, it seems to be more of an obligation, something I accept upon myself, whether I like it or not. The idea of accepting the yoke, Kabbalas Ol Malchus, the yoke of God's kingdom. Especially when we add the words Baruch Shem Kvod Malchusa. Again, God's kingdom is a yoke. A yoke is not a loving concept, right? The yoke represents the idea that I accept upon myself something that I have to do, whether I like it or not. So therefore the Torah continues and says, despite the fact that the Shema Yisrael suggests that there's a king that you have to follow, alongside that, you have to have the Ahavtas Hashem Elokecha. And alongside the acceptance of the yoke, there also has to be love. Even if it doesn't at first glance seem to work hand in hand so easily and simply, nonetheless, you have to have the love of Hashem, along with the acceptance of the yoke of heaven.
If you have the love of Hashem, it should be pretty easy.
Very good. So what? And if you have the love of Hashem, so then it's no longer a yoke, right?
Right.
Good question. But I think that we believe in the idea of simultaneous love. Okay, so actually to answer that question, if it's love of Hashem, so why do you have the yoke? So I want to add, the Orach Chaim lists this as a second explanation, but I think it's deeply connected to his previous explanation. And that is, and this is something that the Zohar says and the Tanya elaborates upon as well. And that is, the Zohar says, Ein adam masig geder ha'ava ad shetakdim bo hayira. A person cannot reach love of Hashem unless it is prefaced by fear of Hashem.
Oh.
Fear of Hashem comes first, followed by love of Hashem. And we only have a couple minutes now. But the point over here is that this is one of the very, very essential ideas that Tanya conveys. And that is, although love of Hashem and fear of Hashem are the two wings, as we said earlier, the two wings which lift every mitzvah. Every mitzvah has to be done with love of Hashem, and every mitzvah has to be done with fear of Hashem. But between those two, the Tanya says, in the words of the Tanya, chapter 41, so we're taking a look at the beginning of chapter 41 of Tanya, Reishis ha'avodah v'ikra v'sharsha, the beginning of the service of Hashem and its primary thrust and its source is fear of Hashem. Fear of Hashem is the starting point in one's service of Hashem. When one has fear of Hashem, they then can and must move on to love of Hashem. So love and fear are two equally critical, two equally necessary parts of service of Hashem. But in the order, one starts with fear of Hashem and then moves on to love of Hashem.
The yoke should be right there.
And that's why, says Orach Chaim, it says ve'ahavta. And you should love is and means in addition to something. Yeah. In addition to the fear of Hashem, you should also love Hashem. This Vav, this little letter Vav, shares one of the most profound messages that we have to keep with us when observing Yiddishkeit, not just the davening, is that it has to start with fear and from there move to love. And again, there is a world of depth to this idea. We'll see if we explore it a little bit further, because again, there's so much to get to on this one line. But for now, we'll suffice with that. And hopefully we'll be able to daven this week with an added appreciation for this very important part of the daven. Have a great week, everyone. I look forward to continuing our studies together.